The concept of romantic love affords a means of emotional manipulation which the male is free to exploit, since love is the only circumstance in which the female is, ideologically, pardoned for sexual activity. World War II provides a string of celebrated cases of deception and manipulation. Geoengineering, the deliberate, large-scale manipulation of the Earth's climate to offset global warming, is a nightmare fix for climate change. When I was 6 years old, I fell in love with magic. For Christmas, I got a magic box and a very old book on card manipulation. Somehow, I was more interested in pure manipulation than in all the silly little tricks in the box. Speculation is only a word covering the making of money out of the manipulation of prices, instead of supplying goods and services. Photography has always been capable of manipulation. You have to hand it to America. It has exercised a quite clinical manipulation of power worldwide while masquerading as a force for universal good. When quick results are imperative, the manipulation of the masses through symbols may be the only quick way of having a critical thing done. The Iraq War was the biggest issue for people of my generation in the West. It was also the clearest case, in my living memory, of media manipulation and the creation of a war through ignorance. China's idea of fair trade is government subsidies of its textile and apparel exports to the United States, currency manipulation, and forgiveness of loans by its government banks. Along with my passion for horse breeding, I was a horse racing enthusiast. In 1974 I was elected as a committee member and subsequently as a steward of the Turf Club. I had a burning desire to clean up the sport, which had always carried the stigma of gambling and manipulation. Well, it arose out of two long-term concerns, the first being the possibility of genetic manipulation, nature versus nurture, what constitutes how people get to be how they are. We have spent so much time worrying about a cyber Pearl Harbor, the attack that takes out the power grid, that we have focused far too little on the subtle manipulation of data that can mean that no election, medical record, or self-driving car can be truly trusted. So we should preserve it. I don't think that digital storage is necessarily a good thing, but I definitely think that digital manipulation is interesting. Much as Cold War nuclear strategists could argue about winning a nuclear war by having more survivors, advocates of a global warming war might see the United States, Western Europe, or Russia as better able to ride out climate disruption and manipulation than, say, China or the countries of the Middle East. Manipulation, sloganizing, depositing, regimentation, and prescription cannot be components of revolutionary praxis, precisely because they are the components of the praxis of domination. If there are 4 equations and only 3 variables, and no one of the equations is derivable from the others by algebraic manipulation, then there is another variable missing. There is a considerable amount of manipulation in the printmaking from the straight photograph to the finished print. If I do my job correctly, that shouldn't be visible at all. It should be transparent. The real violence is committed in the writing of history, the records of the legal system, the reporting of news, through the manipulation of social contracts, and the control of information. The mind starts to do things that you didn't even realize it could do. I suppose it's the manipulation. I suppose it's the sense of power, the center of attention, and the meism. And performers have to have that. It's so easy to manipulate an audience, but it's nearly always clear that you are being manipulated. I think even people that are not critically attuned are aware of cynical manipulation in film. Con men look for human frailty to exploit. This is most often greed. Trump found a different vice, anger. The emotional are always the most susceptible to manipulation. Everything about the left is perception, manipulation, and lies. Everything is wag the dog. Everything is a structured deception. Success of Bitcoin and the exchanges that deal in it could be interpreted by some to mean the demise of central banks, Wall Street, and the Washington insiders who trade on inside information and market manipulation. People are seduced by signals from the world, but that is manipulation, not reality. Computers have learned more about us than we've learned about them. This empire, unlike any other in the history of the world, has been built primarily through economic manipulation, through cheating, through fraud, through seducing people into our way of life, through the economic hit men. I was very much a part of that. Mexico was conquered more by manipulation of myth and archetype. The most amazing thing for me is that every single person who sees a movie, not necessarily one of my movies, brings a whole set of unique experiences. Now, Through careful manipulation and good storytelling, you can get everybody to clap at the same time, to hopefully laugh at the same time, and to be afraid at the same time. Unfortunately, with addiction, there's manipulation and deception. I do respect people's faith, but I don't respect their manipulation of that faith in order to create fear and control. So, poetry becomes a means for useful dialogue between people who are not only unknown, but mute to each other. It produces a dialogue among people that guards all of us against manipulation by our so-called leaders. The virtues of the blockchain is that it would be that it's peer-to-peer settlement, no centralized settlement, no manipulation, and most importantly, there's nothing to capture. It's consensus-based. It's stateless. Acting is the work of two people. It's only possible when you have the complicity, the help, even the manipulation of a director. The future author is one who discovers that language, the exploration and manipulation of the resources of language, will serve him in winning through to his way. Madison Avenue is a very powerful aggression against private consciousness, a demand that you yield your private consciousness to public manipulation. In a state of poverty, illiteracy, people just remain exposed to all kinds of manipulation. That's what we have lived. It's easier to tell a poor person, you know what, you are poor, you're hungry because the other one has taken away your rights. The principle that human nature, in its psychological aspects, is nothing more than a product of history and given social relations removes all barriers to coercion and manipulation by the powerful. I think when markets go up and there is no manipulation in markets and people question the market going up and it keeps going up, that is a true bull market. I've not seen in my lifetime any politician who is a heroic figure. The manipulation that all politicians use on one level or another is so transparent. I don't think I have the manipulation gene in me. The research rat of the future allows experimentation without manipulation of the real world. This is the cutting edge of modeling technology. We don't want AI to engage in cyberbullying, stock manipulation, or terrorist threats. We don't want the FBI to release AI systems that entrap people into committing crimes. We don't want autonomous vehicles that drive through red lights, or worse, AI weapons that violate international treaties. At a deep psychological level, convincing young people that they will get the respect, admiration, love that they are looking for through consumerism is a manipulation of a deep human instinct to want to belong. I can't really put it in one sentence because although on one hand preacher is about faith and yes it is also about, I suppose, the search for God, the search for faith and the manipulation and the abuse committed by figures in whom I suppose people have faith. Like an apparently strict musical form it breaks the 5-minute whole into its structural parts, a descriptive preamble, the action of taking the cards, the development of the cards manipulation and the revelation of what has been achieved. The casting couch exists in every business where there is power dynamics and manipulation. Emotions often must be portrayed from an inner feeling, of course, but I had a double advantage because I was learning to direct my as yet expressionless feelings as well as gaining an ability to express emotion, by a very conscious manipulation of my muscles. I hated being in a convent. It's another form of power, manipulation, because who can say, one God for the whole universe? I think there must be millions of gods, and they're not all of them very nice. In every shoot, between the actor and the director there is manipulation. I'm not saying that negatively. It's healthy. Well, you always discover a lot in the editing room, particularly the action, because you have to overshoot a lot and shoot an enormous amount of material because many of the sequences have to be discovered in the editing and manipulation of it. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.